Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a community that put all of its failing hopes into the hands of teenagers.
And then watched it all just crumble.
Exactly. We are diving deep into the world of Beartown. This is an isolated community where ice hockey isn't just a sport.
No, it's everything. It is the absolute singular source of their identity and, maybe more importantly, their economic survival.
That's right. So the source material we're working with, from Fredrik Backman's novel Beartown, it treats this story like a devastating case study.
It really does. We're going to be tracking the total collapse of a moral center when the pursuit of victory, and we mean literal survival for the town, is pitted against this terrible personal conflict.
A conflict that involves the town's golden boy and, of all people, the general manager's own daughter.
So our mission today is to unpack all of it. The class rigidity, the terrifying definition of loyalty they have, the silence that just permeates everything.
And a brutal, hidden moral cost of success.
Okay, so to get into this, the first thing you have to understand about Beartown is its isolation. It's not just remote.
No, it feels like the isolation is a physical symptom of its economic state. It's a town that just feels like it's constantly running out of breath.
Absolutely. The whole atmosphere is defined by this geographic and economic desperation. The source material describes it as a place that is just fundamentally losing.
And you see it everywhere.
You do. The picture it paints is so stark. Jobs disappear every year, and then the people disappear right after.
And the forest.
Yeah.
The book has this image of the forest just taking over.
It literally devours one or two more abandoned houses each season. It's nature confirming their worst fear, that the town is dying.
That is such a visceral image.
Yeah.
It's not just an economic collapse, it's like an environmental conquest.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that people from other towns look at Beartown with this mix of pity and disbelief.
Right. They ask, Beartown, how can you possibly live that far out in the forest? And that question, it just fuels this intense defensiveness in the people who are still there.
But even they're starting to wonder, right? Is it actually possible living here any longer?
Exactly. But in the middle of all this decline, there's this one single constant beat. The sound of hockey. The town is predictable day after day. And then, bang.
The stick hitting the puck.
That's the sound of their survival. It's the only thing that's reliable in this world that's just falling apart.
So it really is the one heart pumping blood into a dying body. And the stakes for this junior team, for them to win the semifinal and then the final, this isn't about a trophy.
Not at all. It is explicitly, directly tied to securing the regional council's promise of a new hockey-focused high school.
And that high school is everything. It's their entire revitalization plan.
The whole thing. It means new families, new business, new investment. If they win, they secure the town's future. The junior team literally becomes the heart of the town's plans for the future.
And if they lose?
The whole thing just evaporates. And that reliance, that pressure on 17-year-old boys, it's a terrifyingly fragile foundation to build a town on.
And that desperation, it maps directly onto the social geography of the town. There are very clear class lines from the start.
Oh, absolutely critical. Beartown is physically divided. You have the Heights, where the richer, more established families live.
The sponsors, the board members.
Exactly. And then you have the Hollow, just blocks of rental apartments built, and the source notes this specifically, as far away from the Heights as possible.
Wait. So it was built strategically far away.
Yeah.
That sounds less like city planning and more like, well, class warfare.
It basically is. It's not organic sprawl. It's codified separation. And it creates this almost feudal system within the club. The kids from the Heights are closer to power.
And the kids from the Hollow, like Ahmed, even if they have talent.
They're seen as secondary.
Yeah.
Disposable, even. They're just there to fill a role. It doesn't matter how skilled they are. And then stuck in between all of that, you have the decaying middle-class row houses, just reminding everyone that the middle ground is shrinking.
So running alongside all of this is this very unique local culture, especially how they handle conflict and shame. And Kira, the GM's wife, she gives us this essential outsider's view.
She does. She's a lawyer from a big city, and she just cannot get her head around Beartown. She sees this place where the climate is so harsh that animals can barely endure, yet the people...
That can never quite bring themselves to say what they mean.
Exactly. They're physically tough, but completely emotionally repressed. And that leads her to this critical insight, the thing that explains everything that's about to happen. In Beartown, silence always goes hand in hand with shame.
Silence and shame. That's the core psychological condition of the whole town, isn't it? The fear of speaking the truth is so profound because they think it could shatter the one thing they have left.
Their unity, which is tied directly to their economic survival. If the town is built on this single fragile hope of winning, then anything that threatens that hope has to be buried.
Speaking the truth becomes an act of betrayal.
And this internal culture, this fierce pride, is all tied up in what they call having the bear in them.
The bear. So this is supposed to be about competitiveness, resilience.
A love of the fight. It's why Kira, a lawyer, felt like she could fit in. But it has a dark side. Soon, the veteran coach, he admits he's partly to blame for it.
How so?
He says that by teaching generations of kids that losing is the absolute worst thing that can happen, he created a culture that prizes winning above everything else.
Regardless of how you win.
Regardless of the means. So when the crisis hits, this cultural wiring, this belief that you have to be fierce and you have to be silent, it just creates this massive moral vacuum. It transforms loyalty from a good thing into a weapon for suppressing the truth.
Okay, so that sets the stage perfectly for the key individuals who are trapped in this pressure cooker. You've got the prodigy, the outsider, and the GM, who's haunted by his own past.
Let's start with Kevin Erdahl, the 17-year-old star who is carrying all of this fragile hope on his shoulders.
But he's presented almost like a mythical figure, isn't he?
He really is. The source says he has the perfect build, the hands, the head, and the heart. His skill is described almost mystically, this vision that makes the game seem to slow down just for him. He's their golden ticket.
But the source material, it frames this talent not as a gift, but as this profound psychological burden. And it starts with that shocking incident from his childhood.
The foundational trauma. At 7 years old, after missing a crucial shot, he just breaks. He drags the net and pucks out onto the frozen lake in 30 below zero darkness.
And just shoots over and over.
For hours. They find him at dawn, sobbing, and the source makes this critical note. The white marks never faded.
The physical scars from the cold and the obsession. He learned so young that failure is just unforgivable.
And his environment just makes it all worse. He comes from extreme wealth, which is a sharp contrast with the rest of town. His family built him a private rink. His parents' kitchen cost 3 times more than his best friend's mother's entire house.
But all that money, it's just masking this profound emotional isolation.
Totally. His parents are barely there. His father treats his career like a math problem. All statistics, no emotion. The book says all communication in their house has had its emotions amputated.
So Kevin is rich, talented, but fundamentally terrified of failing. He's a product whose value depends entirely on his performance.
And the club just piles on more pressure, with the sponsors demanding he play on the A team right away, even though the coach says he's not mature enough.
Now, you contrast that with Amat, the outsider, living in the hollow with his single mother, Fatima.
Amat's world is the complete opposite of Kevin's. Fatima is a cleaner at the rink, and she is just intensely grateful to the club for their existence. She's worried about him being teased for collecting empty cans for deposit money.
And yet Amat has that exceptional talent too. Raw, natural ability, but the club structure keeps him on the margins.
Right. He's part of the infrastructure, but not the glory. He's helping the caretaker, driving the Zamboni. He's essential, but invisible.
And stuck with that coach, Lars, who just yells.
Who sees every practice as warfare. Amat's dream is so simple and pure. He just wants his mother to be able to walk into a room without having to apologize. Hockey is his only way out, but he's constantly held down by the system.
It really shows that the club isn't a meritocracy. It's a social machine. And in the middle of all of this is Peter Anderson, the GM.
Carrying the weight of the town and his own past, he's a failed hero. He was the last guy from Beartown with Kevin's level of talent. Made it to the NHL, but his career was cut short.
2 broken feet, 9 operations. And that's on top of so much family trauma.
He's haunted by it. The loss of his career, the death of his first son, Isak. And his abusive father drilled this brutal worldview into him. You're either on the boat or in the water. There's no in-between.
So his biggest fear is being not good enough.
And losing everything because of it. And you see this anxiety physically. He can't stand mess. He misses calls. He needs order.
And then his mentor, soon, convinces him to take the GM job, which is basically the messiest, most political job in town.
It's a complete contradiction. He needs order, but the GM's job, as he learns, is to make sure everyone is always unhappy with him. He's caught between all these contradictory demands.
And soon taught him that his talent for compromise would get him a long way.
Which wasn't a lesson in morality, it was a lesson in expediency. It trained him to make tough, sometimes unethical calls with his head, not his heart. And that sets him up perfectly for the impossible choice he's about to face.
Right, because this isn't just a sports club he's running. It's an economic and political machine.
This is where we see its true nature. On paper, the structure is simple: board, president, GM. But the source material is quick to point out that Peter has less power than any of the other men there.
The real power lies with the sponsors.
They're not donors, they're investors, and they are demanding their payback for saving the club from bankruptcy.
And that payback is the junior team winning. It's not about the sport, it's about justifying the new high school.
Exactly. The club is commerce disguised as sport. When the sponsors talk about the players, they talk about them like they're racehorses, products. It's all about the return on investment.
This cold transactional pressure puts Peter in a terrible position with Soon the A-team coach and his mentor.
The board's plan for Soon is it's shockingly cold. They plan to fire him, the man who's been coaching there since Peter was a kid, and replace him with David, the successful junior coach.
But there's a catch.
A ruthless one. They'll only do it if, and only if, the junior team wins the final. If they lose the semifinal, the media attention won't be big enough, so they'll wait.
So Soon's entire career, his legacy, depends on a commercial calculation about media buzz.
Precisely. And Peter is the one who has to deliver the news. It's the ultimate test of his loyalty. His mentor versus the club's survival. He has to enact the very compromise Soon taught him to make.
And this all highlights this huge philosophical split in the club, personified by Soon and David.
It's a battle for the soul of Beartown hockey. Soon is all about playing with the heart, developing well-rounded players. He's old school.
And David is the new way. His philosophy is one word: win.
Right. He's all about strategy, defense, evolving the sport. He believes you have to adapt to survive. And the board, desperate for that economic stability, they're clearly choosing the guy who promises results, no matter the cost.
And then through all this, you have Kira's outside perspective again, reminding us that the club's problems are also deeply cultural.
She's a lawyer from a big city, and she just finds Beartown's patriarchy completely perplexing. She remembers being at a sponsor event, and the club president just handed her his empty glass, assuming she was a waitress.
That one little moment just perfectly sums up the gender and power dynamics.
She sees the club not as an employer, but as an army, and the players are soldiers being waved off to war. It's a total lack of critical thinking about what they're doing.
And she has that perfect cutting line when they're arguing about Peter cheating at rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, yeah. He says, "You're a cheat," and she shoots back, "You're a liar." They both know they're being dishonest to survive. He has to cheat the system, and she has to lie to herself about being happy there.
And that leads her to make that hard choice, to give hockey back to Peter, even though she knows their happiest time was when he was out of the game.
Because she's a competitor, too. She has the bear in her. They never give up, even on their own conflict. It proves how infectious that town spirit is, even for the people who are its biggest critics.
So the semifinal arrives. This is the moment where everything that's been simmering just boils over and then collapses. Peter is a mess.
He's frantic. He keeps repeating, "It's only a junior team game, only a game." But his pulse is racing. He knows exactly what's at stake.
And in the middle of this high-stakes game, David, the coach, suddenly puts Ahmad in.
Which Bobo, one of the other players, immediately recognizes as a sacrifice. The plan is for Ahmad to get run over by a bigger opponent to fire up the rest of the team.
But that's not what happens.
Not at all. Ahmad ignores the intimidation, gets a pass, and scores the winning goal. It's this incredible moment of triumph against all the odds.
And the high he feels is described in these just extraordinary terms.
He thinks, how can anyone possibly experience this without thinking he's a god? For 1 second, he has transcended his class, his status. He thinks he's won everything for his mother and his town.
And that absolute peak of euphoria is immediately violently destroyed.
Later that night, at Kevin's party, he forces himself on Maya, Peter's 15-year-old daughter. And the sources are incredibly explicit. She says, "I said no."
But he doesn't listen. He says, "Stop playing hard to get. You came upstairs with me, didn't you?" And he leaves bruises.
The collision of the town's golden boy and the GM's daughter, it's the moral bomb the town was so desperate to avoid.
And Maya's first reaction is just devastating. She flees, but she thinks like she's the one who committed a crime.
She thinks her parents wouldn't survive the truth. The systemic failure starts right there with her internalizing all that pressure.
She's silenced by her fear of damaging her father and the town. And when Amot finds her, she says it all.
She delivers the sociological punchline of the whole story. "It won't make any difference what I say because no one will believe me anyway because this is a fucking hockey town."
She knows, instantly, she knows the whole social order will protect Kevin, not her.
And the community's reaction proves her right almost immediately. The denial, the cover-up, it starts with Kevin's parents.
His mother goes into this chilling damage control mode.
She meticulously cleans the house, vacuums for blouse buttons, flushes any trace of marijuana, gets rid of all the clothes. She does it because, as the source says, she's his mom. And that's where you start.
The maternal instinct overrides all morality.
And that denial spreads like a virus. The town falls right into the pattern Kira predicted. First, you choose a side. Second, you find facts to support your side.
Third, you dehumanize the enemy. They won't even use Maya's name. She's M or the young woman or just the slut.
And the assault becomes the allegation or the lie. The justification escalates from nothing happened to she wanted it, and finally to she deserved it. They have to make her the villain to save their dream.
And then the police investigation just cements the whole thing.
It's the final institutional failure. They actively victim blame her. She shouldn't have waited, shouldn't have showered, shouldn't have been drinking.
Shouldn't have put herself in that situation.
They're literally questioning her right to exist in the same room as him. It underscores the total failure of justice when it's faced with the power of the town's idol.
Which leaves Peter, the GM, just paralyzed, caught between his daughter's trauma and the club's demand for silence.
The very compromise soon taught him to make, and the club hierarchy, they move fast to enforce that silence. Kevin's father goes to David, the junior coach, with an ultimatum.
A brutal one.
Either the two of you stay at the club, or Peter Anderson does. There's no middle way. His daughter is lying. It frames it as a choice between the club's stability and the truth.
And at the same time, the sponsors and board members, they show up outside Kevin's house.
In this menacing show of support, David says it looked like a scene from The Godfather. They're pressuring him to stand with them, reinforcing the required narrative that Kevin is innocent.
But in the middle of all this corruption, you start to see these individual moral compasses just spin wildly.
Starting with Amat, the outsider who had his moment of glory. Kevin's father corners him, offering him a bribe, a better job, a secure future, basically buying his silence.
He tries to poison his perspective, calling Maya a virus.
But Amat refuses. And it's not his own strength, it's his mother, Fatima. She tells him he's not alone. That gives him the clarity he needs. And later, he just drops that business card in the snow.
A nonverbal declaration. He chose his mother's pride over a comfortable life built on a lie.
And then there's Benji, Kevin's best friend. He is the walking embodiment of the town's internal conflict. He's struggling, and then David, the coach, gives him a puck for his father's grave that just says, win.
And that pressure just causes him to snap.
Yeah. He sees Maya, and he's enraged by the turmoil she's causing, and he just systematically destroys the school bathroom, tears a sink off the wall, smashes a toilet. It's a pure emotional outburst.
But Benji's story is so much more complicated because of his secret.
The secret that David, the coach, stumbles upon. He sees Benji kissing another boy in the rival town of Head. And David feels this wave of shame, not at Benji, but at himself.
For the hyper-masculine, toxic environment he created.
Exactly. He realizes a grown man must have failed as a person if such a warrior of a boy could believe that his coach would be less proud of him if he were gay.
So Benji's whole intense warrior persona, it was a defense mechanism, a way to belong.
It was. And David understands that the win-at-all-costs culture he championed was fundamentally unsafe for a boy like Benji. It forces him to question everything.
And this crisis, it unleashes the fiercest defenders of justice. And they are the women who the hockey culture had marginalized.
Kira becomes the wolf mother. When some boys harass Maya, she doesn't call the police. She chases them down in her car, gets out with a golf club, ready to fight. It's primal and protective, a total contrast to Peter's paralysis.
And Ramona, the bar owner, she becomes this unlikely moral compass.
She's a bartender, but she acts like a psychologist. She confronts Kevin's father at the bar and delivers this crushing line. If hockey had held on to him for a few more years, you might have learned to lose like a man.
She's demanding the one thing the town's culture prevents: mature accountability.
And then, in one of the biggest twists, the pack, the menacing guys in leather jackets, they secretly vote to keep Peter as GM.
They override the sponsors and the board?
They do. They hate the sponsors. They show up at the vote, silent but menacing, and swing it. Ramona later tells Kira why. She says, people around here don't always know the difference between right and wrong, but we know the difference between good and evil.
Their loyalty isn't to the system. It's to a deeper, rougher sense of justice.
But despite these acts of courage, the system fails. The police drop the investigation. Kevin is cleared.
which forces Maya to seek her own resolution.
A terrifying one. She confronts Kevin on a jogging track with her father's shotgun. She forces him to his knees, pulls the trigger, but she drops the cartridge in the snow.
It's not about murder. It's about transferring the trauma.
She tells him, now you'll be scared of the dark too, Kevin, for the rest of your life. She's giving him the consequences the legal system wouldn't.
And in the aftermath, the town starts to rebuild. Maya asks her father not to leave, but to stay.
Build a better club. Stay and make the sport better. For everyone. Peter finds a new purpose. It's not about winning anymore. It's about fixing the broken structure.
While David, the win-at-any-cost coach, realizes he can't stay in a place that mixes hockey and politics. He leaves.
And his girlfriend is pregnant. It's this quiet suggestion that he's choosing a different path now, focused on family and stability.
And other people step up. The teacher, Jeanette, starts a martial arts club. A new outlet for that bear spirit.
And that 10-year flash forward. It shows us the lasting consequences. Maya is a successful performer, her name in lights above her rink. A non-hockey triumph.
And Kevin. He's still playing, married, expecting a child, but he's still haunted by fear. The town's focus finally begins to shift.
So this deep dive, it really shows how that immense pressure to win acted like this invisible chemical that just dissolved all moral responsibility.
Loyalty became a weapon. They chose a rapist over a victim because he was essential to their economic survival.
But the critical insight here is in those individual acts of courage, mostly from the women, Maya, Kira, Ramona, and the marginalized men who resisted that silence.
They proved that true loyalty isn't to the system, it's to the truth, even if it guarantees a loss.
The source material really suggests that the town's true victory wasn't winning the game. They lost that game because Kevin was arrested. The true victory was in the decision to break the silence. Peter staying to build a better club, that's the recognition that real survival requires moral change, not just a championship.
So here's the thought to take with you. Beartown shows us that everyone is participating in a system, whether you're on the ice or watching from the stands. So in your own life, what system are you participating in? The one that demands silence for a larger goal, or the one that demands justice? And what, at the end of the day, does your loyalty truly serve?